All right, hello everybody. So I am here today with my roommate Diana. So we are both currently finishing up our second semester at Fairleigh Dickinson University. So I am Neyda and I am from Randolph, New Jersey. I am double majoring in psychology and criminology, and I hope to get my master's in forensic psychology. So Diana, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Diana, and I am from Morristown, New Jersey, and I am majoring in psychology, and I hope to get my bachelor's and master's in psychology.
All right, so how's your day going so far, Diana?
My day's actually been pretty good. I had class, and then I had lunch, and now I'm doing some homework.
Yep, and today's Friday, so we have the weekend off. Okay, so I am here today to give you a summary and basically spoil a movie for you, and then explain to you some ethical theories I have learned throughout the semester and how I applied them to the movie. So today's movie that I'm going to be talking about actually came out in 2002, and it's called Minority Report. So I tried to make the summary very brief, but I did include all the spoilers. So yeah, because that was the only way I could possibly make you understand how the ethical theories correspond to the movie. So I'm gonna get started with the summary first, and if you have any questions or anything, you can just stop me and you can ask me. But yeah. Okay, so basically it's the year 2054, and crime has stopped for the past 6 years due to an organization called Pre-Crime. And John Anderton is a detective working for the pre-crime department in Washington, D.C., and he's actually the main character in this movie. And pre-crime works to arrest murderers before they have committed the actual crime. So these detectives are able to see visions into the future, and by using 3 precogs, or you can call them psychics. So as we get an insight into John's life, we actually see how harsh and difficult his life has been. So he's addicted to a drug called Naratin, which is like a drug that is supposedly used during 2054. And he watches videos of his ex-wife, Laura, and his lost 6-year-old son. And meanwhile, all this is happening, we have Danny Whitwer, which is a Justice Department official who is, in a way, inspecting the pre-crime system to decide if it's ethical enough to continue working and be bought nationwide. So, like, although the organization has been great and reduced the crime rate in Washington, D.C., Danny refuses to believe that the system is perfect. So before he brings it up to the rest of the world, he wants to make sure it's perfect. So now with the plot, which is very interesting. So one day the organization actually receives a case of a murder that will occur, and the victim is Leo Crow. But for some reason, the murderer is still unknown, and this happens only a few times, not all the time. But soon, to his surprise, John, the main character, finds out that he is the killer, and he's extremely shocked and has to find a way to escape before his colleagues and the organization figure out that he is the future offender, because if they do figure out, he will be immediately arrested and put to sleep like the other future criminals, and he does not want this to happen. So he actually escapes the building and then gets caught and then escapes again and then gets caught, but then finally escapes. And he ends up going to Dr. Iris's, which is one of the main creators of the pre-crime program. And he's actually looking for, well, John is looking for help because he doesn't want to kill somebody. So he wants to like ask Dr. Iris, like, how do I make this vision not come true? And so Dr. Iris actually informs John that this was pretty interesting, but that the precogs are actually children of Naratin users and addicts, and they were born with severe brain damage, and the ones who survived had the special gift of viewing future murders. And John also learned that sometimes the potential murderers are innocent, and that's basically the flaw of this whole system. Sometimes the precogs don't agree on the same vision, and when this occurs, the one that doesn't relate or is similar enough to the other visions gets ignored. And so John assumes this is what happened to him. And this is what's known as the Minority Report. So basically, to prove his innocence, John has to find the Minority Report, which is only generated by the most talented precog, which in this case is the female precog named Agatha. So what John has to do is sneak back to the pre-crime headquarters, which he successfully does, and he ends up stealing Agatha. But to his surprise, when him and his friend hack into Agatha's mind, they figure out that John has no minority report, meaning that he is destined to kill Leo. So then we move on to the altercation between John and Leo. So basically, this is a little bit confusing, so I'm gonna try to explain it the best I can. But Leo, the victim of this crime, confesses to having drowned and killed John's son. Now, John's son had been missing, and they believed he was missing, but now Leo's here telling him that, oh no, I drowned and killed him. So after hearing this, obviously, John is determined to end Leo's life. He has so much anger, frustration. He had been trying to find his son for the past years, and, he just comes and tells him, oh, hey, I killed your son. So when the alarm goes off, which is the time that the crime is supposed to happen, John changes his mind. So instead of killing Leo, he starts reading him his Miranda rights and is about to arrest Leo. And then Leo, all confused because he was supposed to get killed, admits that he did not actually do anything to John's son. Instead, he had been forced by someone unknown to pretend he did and be the victim of this crime, so that his family could receive a reward, so money. So it was all a plan to involve John in the murder. So after this, Agatha and John try to escape from Leo, because it just seemed like Leo wanted to get killed. Like, he wanted John to kill him so that his family could get the money. So sadly, at the end, John does end up killing Leo because it was part of the future vision. So after this, John, along with Agatha, end up going to Laura's place to hide there, but eventually pre-crime finds them and they arrest John and return Agatha to the precogs. But in the end, the pre-crime organization is banned, given that it is wrong and unreliable, and all the criminals that had been arrested and put to sleep are released, because it could have been possible that some of them weren't even going to commit a crime. And they're all asked for forgiveness, and they're kept on watch, though, for several years after their release, just for precaution. And then the movie has a happy ending, because at the end, John gets back with Laura, and they start a family again, because Laura is pregnant again. And then also the precogs are released to a location where they can finally live in peace and not have to be connected to so many wires and in this program. So yeah, so that was the movie. Okay, so now I am going to be talking about two theories, so utilitarianism and free will. So utilitarianism is known as that actions are right in proportion as they tend to promote happiness, and wrong as they tend to produce the reverse of happiness. So it's the idea that we should pay more attention to the consequences and moral attributes. So, Diana, what's your ultimate goal in life at this point in your life?
My ultimate goal in this life is to be successful in the future and make my mom proud and have the dream life that I've always wanted.
And what is this all gonna bring for you? Like, what feeling? What are you gonna feel when you accomplish all this?
I feel like it's gonna bring me so much happiness and pride, because that's my number one goal, is to someday have my mom feel accomplished for doing her part in creating me and giving me a great future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically what you just emphasized, that idea of being happy, making your mom happy, everybody being happy around you, that's basically what utilitarianism says. It states that everybody wants happiness. That's everyone's ultimate goal in this life. And so the principle of utility is that we should act always so as to produce the greatest good for the greatest number, even if it produces less happiness for you. So in a way, right now, the semester is very hard and we're struggling, yet we're doing it to make our parents happy. So in a way, that's kind of the principle of utility. So we have a reading called Utilitarianism by John Stuart Mill, who is an English philosopher. And the three main points he makes is that actions are right if they bring happiness to everyone and wrong if they bring pain and suffering. And this is how actions should be measured. So whenever you hear the greatest good for the greatest number, just think about utilitarianism. And in conclusion, we desire what gives us pleasure and what takes away the pain. And this is basically the definition of happiness, is pleasure and the absence of pain. So when analyzing utilitarianism to Minority Report, I focused on the criminals as well as the precogs. So to start, the 3 precogs are controlled by the authorities. Their lives are taken away from them. They are put to sleep. Their brains are connected to wires which allow the pre-crime to see the future vision of the murders. So basically they are like held captive. And they are not free. They seem very unhappy. They literally seem like robots even though they're actual humans. Yet they do this to save humanity, to stop crime from occurring. They do it to produce the greatest happiness for everyone, which in this case would be to deter crime in order to have a safe and happy society. And that's basically what the principle of utility says, that we should always produce the greatest good for the greatest number, even if it produces less happiness for you. Now, a criticism of utilitarianism is that it does not have moral agency. And some actions may bring happiness to one and everyone, but is not morally correct. So it's unjust. And personally, I think the precogs show this criticism because I think keeping the precogs detained is morally incorrect and this shouldn't be done, especially because, as it was explained, like they were taken away. You know, they had no option. Like they were just, since they had since they were able to see the future, they were like, oh, okay, they're convenient for us, so they just took them, which to me is quite unfair, and they're human beings as well. So in addition, we also have the criminals who are detained to make society safer, aka making the world a better, safer, and happier place. So what's messed up about this is that there's a minority report, meaning that these precogs have errors, therefore some of these criminals were not actually going to kill anybody. So once again, back to the criticism of utilitarianism, there is no moral agency. It's morally incorrect for these innocent people to be stigmatized as criminals and for their lives to be taken away. So yes, the program pre-crime thought they were doing what was best for everyone, but in the end, like, were they really? So Diana, what are your thoughts on utilitarianism, and do you think it was fair that the precogs were held captive just to make the world a better place, or that these criminals who might have not even been criminals were arrested for a crime that didn't even occur just to make the world a safer and place and just bring happiness to everybody? So what are your thoughts on this idea?
Honestly, I feel like it's not really fair to the criminals, because what if they like murder someone for like a reasonable reason? Like, it could be for a reasonable reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could have been like self-defense or like by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I know there are like many cases where like murders and crimes are not intentional, yeah, and that they're kind of like an accident sometimes. So I feel like it's not really fair that whoever is like keeping them prisoned is kind of just taking their life away from them.
Yeah.
Even if they don't know if they're innocent or guilty, like, for real.
And then what would you say about the precogs? Like, do you believe that, like, in a way, okay, they made, you know, society a better place, but again, even though society is way more than 3 people, and these precogs were only 3 people, at the end, these 3 people were suffering and held captive and literally held like robots with their brains all wired up to machines. So what's your ideas on this?
Precogs, like, what do you, like, how do I feel about them being treated like
just to make the world a safer place and like no crime? Like, what do you think?
I honestly feel like if they haven't done anything in that moment, that they're like being held in like testing rooms and stuff. I honestly don't think it's really fair. Although I get that it's reasonable, like in the future they're gonna be criminals. But at the same time, like, don't take away like the life that they have, that they should be taking advantage right now for like a science project.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, especially because they don't even know if this whole system was perfect, which at the end it wasn't, and yet like they were there for years.
Yeah.
Okay. So next I'm going to be talking about free will, which the definition of free will is the supposed power or capacity of humans to make decisions or perform actions independently of any prior event or state of the universe. So free will is the idea that you can just you make up your own decisions and choices. Like nothing leads to whatever you do. Like you're free to make your own decisions. Whereas determinism is the opposite of free will. And it is defined as the idea that all of events are determined completely by previously existing causes. So, are you more of a free will person or a determinism person? What would you say?
Free will is like when I'm being controlled, you said?
No, free will is when you're not being controlled, and determinism is kind of when you're being controlled. So, it's the idea that, like, stuff that you did leads to like your future, basically your future. That's determinism. That like causes from the past, what you've done in the past, all of that like that's what makes up your decisions. Whereas free will is that whatever you did in the past, whatever events, like nothing, that doesn't matter. Like you're free, you keep going on, you keep making your own choices.
I'm more of free will because honestly I believe like we all learn from our mistakes, and we wouldn't be who we are if it wasn't for our past. And I'm more free will as well because I choose what I want to do. You know, I choose what I want with my life. I know what I'm like capable of doing with my life and how to manage my life and just all of that. So I'm more of a free will.
Okay, yep. All right, so let's see how you feel about what this philosopher said. But so basically, we have the reading by Thomas Nagel called Free Will, and he's an American philosopher. So basically, the main points he makes is that free will means that we can make our own decisions and choices, so we're responsible for our actions. And then determinism is the idea that all our decisions and choices are a result of previous circumstances and factors outside of our control, which rejects free will. And then he makes the point that many consequences come along with determinism, and one of them being that you can't blame yourself for anything you do because nothing is wrong, even if it is, since your actions are out of your control, and basically you can't hold anyone responsible for anything. And since it seems like you were more towards free will, actually many philosophers don't believe in free will because they believe it's more of an illusion. You think you have free will, but in reality you actually don't. So when analyzing Free Will to the movie, clearly Minority Report covered the dilemma of determinism, since, you know, they could see into the future and they deterred crime from occurring, and its consequences, as well as the existence of the illusion of free will, which we'll talk about in a minute. So basically, something I'm still confused about is that the reading states that the consequences of determinism, which is this movie, is that you can't blame anybody for anything because it's out of your hands. It's just supposed to happen. Yet in the movie, the criminals are blamed, even though they, like, it's in their future vision. They can't stop it. You know, like John wanted to stop it. He couldn't stop it. Yet you're blamed and you're punished and you're put to sleep. So that's something I don't think really goes along with this movie. But I think this idea that free will is an illusion is clearly shown in the movie, especially in the scene with the altercation between John and Leo. Because in this specific case, John tries to stop this determinism of him killing Leo by making his own choice and having free will. But as we see, he still ends up killing Leo, which kind of proves that free will is an illusion. He tries, but it was just simply his fate. It was just supposed to happen, and it was going to happen even if he tried to do everything in his hands to not make it happen. So we've come to an end here. So Diana, do you have any last thoughts or questions or anything you would like to say?
I did, but I forgot.
Well, did you learn something new today at least? Like about...
I did actually, because I am taking an ethics class, a philosophy ethics class this year, and we actually did go over this this topic. But I love how like you were able to compare it to a movie, and it really just expanded my knowledge on how to see these principles. Like, I see them differently now than I did before.
Yeah, I think it really makes a difference to connect them to movies, because it makes it more come to life, and like you actually understand it more than just learning about them. Because I feel like these philosophers just like say it in a way like so like old school, and you don't really know what they mean exactly, but when you tie it to like these movies, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
All right, so sadly we have come to an end, so thank you, Diana, for being my guest here today, and I hope you learned something new as well as enjoyed the analysis of this movie and ethical theories. So ethics is filled with many ideas, thoughts, and opinions, and in the end it's up to you as to what you want to believe in and hold on to. So I hope everyone enjoyed this podcast and have a wonderful day, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.